Just let me get this out of my system first. We'll get to the review in a second, I swear. I'm excited, okay? It's Robin's fight, alright? And, I don't know if you guys knew this, I like Robin. Yeah, she's one of my favorite characters in One Piece. You know who else is one of my favorite characters in One Piece? Probably my favorite character in One Piece, Frankie. Okay, so, Oda might be the greatest genius in the history of mankind. I've definitely said that before, but even before mankind existed, like if aliens, you know, lived on the planet before we did, you know, Oda was even smarter than them. Because he put the Frankie chapter right next to the Robin chapter, okay? And it was a good thing the Olympics were right in the middle there. Oda was very clever there as well, because he knew, like, okay, if I just put the Frankie chapter, you know, right before the Robin chapter, I mean, people will lose their damn minds. I mean, look at me right now, okay? But he's like, okay, the Olympics are right in the center, so I'll have a break in between, and thank God, let me tell you. Okay, so, yeah, this will be One Piece chapter 10,000... Chapter 10,020, titled Robin versus Black Maria. Oh, it's gonna be so cool. She's gonna summon like a giant version of herself with like 1,000 arms to like, you know, punch Black Maria. It's like freaking Isaac Netero's, you know, Guanyin Bodhisattva or whatever. It's going to happen, okay? It actually does happen, alright? Just spoiler alert right away. That is actually what she does, so I'm pumped about that. That happened. Okay. But before we get to that, there's some other stuff we need to cover first. First thing is the cover page, the little fan art thing that Oda drew. It's Denjiro eating his hair, mistaking it for a piece of tempura shrimp. Not much to really add to that, but it's very comical. Okay, now we move on to the actual chapter, where we start off on the Skull Dome of Onigashima, the top of Muffin Mountain, where the ruler of this arc will be decided. Not right now, but eventually I would imagine at the top of the Skull Dome is where the victor of this whole war will emerge victorious, of course. Whether it be Kaido, or Yamato, or Luffy, or Kid, or Law, it's going to happen on top of the Skull Dome. So, we get the name for Yamato's Devil Fruit. Oh yeah, that's right, I was taken off a little bit by that, because it's like last chapter was 2 weeks ago, and it ended with the big cliffhanger of Yamato's Devil Fruit, like what's it going to be? And we were all really curious about that, but then, you know, Robin happened, and that kind of distracted me away. Okay, so... So Kaido kicks off this chapter. Literally the first thing he says is the name and type of Yamato's Devil Fruit, saying this to Yamato, who obviously already knows what the Devil Fruit is called, and Kaido obviously knows what it's called, and there's nobody else around them to hear it. So it is kind of funny. It's kind of like Kaido is aware the last chapter ended on a cliffhanger, and, you know, so Kaido's about to fight Yamato, and he's just like, wait a second, Yamato, wait a second. Before we continue our mighty, you know, duel of the fates on top of Muffin Mountain, the good audience out there, he like turns, like breaks the fourth wall, the audience out there, he like winks to everybody, doesn't know what your devil fruit is, so let me announce that to everybody. And Yamato's like, oh, okay, father, go ahead. And Kaido's like, all right, let me get in character here. I'm a dragon duck. I like booze, okay. The Inu no Mi, mythical zone, model Oguchi Makami, or Oguchi no Makami. So, pretty cool name. Did anybody out there guess that? I did a video about 2 weeks ago, and I went through a bunch of different theories, and that was not on the list, so if anybody out there guessed that, congratulations, you win a cookie. It could be any type of cookie you want. Personally, I like white chocolate macadamia nut, but hey, you know, if you're more of an oatmeal raisin kind of person, that's fine too. So, yes, Yamato does have a mythical zone. I think we were all kind of on the money on that one, because, obviously, you know, Kaido has a mythical zone, and Kaido was very upset in the last chapter, like, I can't believe you're the one, you know, I went through all the trouble to find that devil fruit, and you're the one that ate it. So it seemed like it was super, super rare. Obviously, Kaido's Beast Pirates are all about zones, you know, ancient zones, mythical zones, artificial zones. So the idea it was a mythical, that wasn't really a big surprise. It is the mythical variant of the Inu no Mi, so the dog fruit. Ironically enough, not the only dog fruit we're going to get in this chapter, but we'll get to that later. And the model is the Oguchi no Makami, okay, or I guess it's Makami, because Kami is God, so it wouldn't be Makami, it would be Makami. Okay, I guess that's the way to pronounce it. Okay, so what is that exactly? Alright, well, I did some research on this, really just quick research on figuring out what this deity is, but it's actually really cool. It is a deity to begin with. Not every mythical zone is necessarily some kind of god or deity, but in this case, yes. Well, you know, I guess, you know, Sengoku was the Buddha, and, you know, Kaido is a dragon, if you haven't heard, so, you know, obviously revered as deities there. Marco as a phoenix. I'm sure, you know, some cultures, you know, worship and, you know, venerate a phoenix as like a holy being. So I guess most mythical zoans could have some kind of like, you know, godly bent to them. So I think most people are aware at this point that Yamato is named after the Yamato period or Yamato province of early Japan. And when I say early Japan, we're, you know, talking a long time before the Edo period. The Edo period was like 1600 to like 1850 something. Before that, it was the Sengoku era, the Warring States period and everything. Before that, you had like the Genpei War around 1100, okay? But even before all of that, all right? And this is an era of Japanese history I don't personally know a lot about because this is back between the era of like, I think the Yamato period stretches from 200 AD to around 700 or 800 AD. And the Yamato province, which was like the center of power, the seat of power, right now it's the Nara prefecture, I think existed, like the actual province began around the 7th century. 7th century, around the 600s or something like that, okay? This was back, I believe, when Japan was mostly a bunch of rice kingdoms popping up kind of all over the island nation, and you'd have different regions that like ruled over. So this is really before like the government had really settled in to what it would become later on, okay? So this was a long time ago, okay? So Yamato is named after that period or that province, and it would make sense that the Makami, this wolf deity, so it's a wolf, originated from around that area, okay? So the idea is the Makami is a wolf deity that is just really finely tuned to understanding somebody and not just the speech of a human, like it can understand human speech, but also it can understand your true nature. And it was a protector deity that would guard, you know, crops and everything from like deer or other animals that might graze and might ruin it and stuff like that, okay? So it was like a protector deity that was really good at understanding humans' desires and their true natures. So, you know, a Makami would be able to tell right away, oh, that's a good human being, that's a bad human being, or like there's evil in their heart, okay? And it's a wolf, all right? So far it seems like this is syncing up pretty well. Kaido goes on to say that the Makami is the guardian deity of all of Wano, all right? So this would make sense. You know, obviously Wano is more based in the Edo period of Japan, but a lot of Japanese history is crammed into this arc, so it makes sense, okay? Something else about the Makami from legend from our world is that it is said to be able to protect against fires, like wildfires and destruction, as well as robbery, okay? So once again, this is clicking really well. Kaido turns into a giant dragon that can burn an entire forest down, and Orochi is, you know, this despot that's basically ruling over all of Wano and stealing food and money from everybody in the country and raising the weapon factories and everything like that. So fire, robbery, the Makami, the wolf deity is like, you know, the protector and, you know, the one that fights against that kind of stuff, and also able to understand the true nature of people. So Yamato is able to understand the true nature of Kaido and Orochi and fights against that in the name of Odin and the Kozukis and all of Wano. So I've never heard of this mythological creature before, but it seems to fit Yamato very well. It seems Oda did his research definitely on this, because everything I read about the Oguchi no Makami seems to fit Yamato perfectly, okay? Now, here's something interesting. The way that this legend kind of ends is that in ancient Japan, people began to spread out a little bit more into the mountains, okay? So they started to build more settlements, more, you know, like farmlands and everything as, you know, people began to prosper. Well, in the process of that, that also led to more farm animals, like, you know, cattle and everything in Japan. And so because of that, more and more wolves came down from the mountains and attacked these farm animals. So more wolves were now becoming more of a detriment to farmers going deeper into the mountains of Japan. A lot of the wolves ended up dying, and so the belief in the Makami sort of just died out in Japan just over the centuries, right? Something interesting is throughout this entire arc of Wano so far, we've seen a lot of Koma animals. We've seen the Koma Inu, you know, so the giant dog, and we've seen the Koma Shika, which was the deer. We've seen the fox, Onimaru, but we haven't seen any wolves. Yes, we saw Koma Inu, which is a dog, which is related to wolves, but we've never seen actually, like, any wolves in Wano. At least I don't believe we have. Maybe we have. Let me know if I missed something. But I haven't seen any wolves, and so that's interesting. Maybe it's the same kind of thing here. Like, back in the day, back when maybe Wano was still referred to as the country of gold, because nobody refers to that anymore, but, you know, apparently that was the name of the country at one point. Maybe back in the day, that's when the Makami, the wolf deity, was more prominent. And then the wolves started to die out. Maybe the humans, you know, fought against them, or they just died out, you know, maybe of like a disease or something. And so the belief in the Makami, it still exists, but it's not as prominent as it used to be. And so that's the situation with Yamato's devil fruit, and Kaido once again is very upset, and Kaido once again states that he did not originally intend for Yamato to eat the fruit. So that brings up a question like, okay, he found this mythical zone. He already had one, so he couldn't eat another one. Who was he going to feed the mythical zone to originally? Because he seems very, very upset that Yamato ate it. And so he also says, he's like, well, okay, you ate the devil fruit. I didn't intend you to eat it, but okay, fine. But now you are basically the guardian deity of Wano. So you become that guardian deity, Yamato, for me. So that's basically the way here, because of course Kaido wanted to, you know, set up his pirate empire and kind of rule the world and find the One Piece and everything like that. And the idea was to have Yamato rule over all of Wano in his stead, okay? And so he's like, this is perfect. You now have this Makami power. You are the guardian deity of Wano, so, you know, you can rule over them. You know, Orochi wasn't good for much. I love this. Kaido says this. He's like, Orochi was not good for much, but one thing he was good at was he was good at being a despot, alright, and ruling over the people and setting up all the weapon factories and just making this country a living hell for everybody that lived here. He was pretty good at that. So just take the reins and, you know, follow in his footsteps, and you're the guardian deity, everyone will accept you, and just rule over the entire country and continue the weapon manufacturing for me. So that's Kaido's messed up logic there, right? And so obviously Yamato, following in the footsteps of Odin and the rest of the Kozukis and everybody at Wano and what they all stood for, all the samurai, Yamato's like, I can't possibly, you know, rule over Wano like that, father. And also remember, Yamato did not eat the fruit because, you know, it was like the Makami fruit. Yamato did not know that. Yamato, it was eaten out of just hunger. Same thing that Luffy, when Luffy ate it, right? And so it's like, oh, a fruit, I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat it. Did not plan on becoming the guardian wolf deity of all of Wano country, but there you go. It all kind of clicked together. It all worked out anyway. So, Yamato uses a technique called Divine Ice Fang, or Divine Glacial Fang, okay? Now, the attack seems to be fire, you know, because it's manga. We'll have a better idea for it in the anime, obviously. But the attack also could be snow or ice. Definitely glacial ice is in the name, so it is a cold ability. So I'm thinking here, that, like, that fire we saw coming off of Yamato in the last chapter, like those will-o-wisp kind of things that were coming off of Yamato, those weren't flames. Or if they were flames, they were like cold flames. They were like cold fire, okay? And so it's like the wispy, you know, or maybe not even fire, maybe just like the, like with Brook's ability, like the chill of the underworld or something similar to that, okay? So it makes sense that Kaido would have the Boro Breath, the fire abilities, Yamato with the Makami powers, with the wolf, and wolves are often, you know, not all wolves, but, you know, in the north, in the mountains where it's cold and there's snow everywhere. And also Wano has the Ringo region, which is very cold as well, so that's probably where the Makami originated from back in the day. That would also make sense, because I think it was mentioned that Ringo, the region of Ringo, is kind of one of the older regions of Wano. And if you actually follow the theory that oars maybe pulled all the continents together, so that's the reason why Wano is all chopped up, maybe the original Wano country was only the size of Ringo. Like, that was the original nation, the snowy nation of Wano, where everybody initially lived. And there's a lot of those old practices, like the practices of burying the sword with the samurai when they died. So maybe that was the original Wano, maybe thousands and thousands of years ago. And then the continent pullers, Oars' ancestors, the ancient giants, dragged all these continents together, creating Wano in its entirety, okay? But Ringo was there first, and so Ringo was the original Wano, so maybe that's where the Makami, the, you know, the wolf deities originated, very cold, wintry region, or a winter island on the Grand Line, and then boom, that's the origin of Yamato's ability. So there you go, Barry. I think I've solved this mystery right there. Okay, so Kaido attacks with a Boro Breath in his hybrid form. Yamato uses the glacial ability, the ice ability, and they just, you know, meet in the center. Giant freaking explosion. It's actually really cool the way it twists and twirls. Like, it's sort of like, you remember the mountains from Mihawk's Island, which are also referenced to the mountains from A Nightmare Before Christmas, that they do the swirl? That's basically what happens when ice meets fire. They just swirl together right in the center, and then there's just a giant explosion. And then we just see Kaido there still fighting Yamato. Is like, well, bring it on then. And Yamato's like, okay, and then there you go. So obviously Yamato is not going to bend the knee to Kaido and be like, okay, father, I'll do whatever you say. It's like, obviously this fight is going to be, I mean, they're going to try to fight to the death here. They're not actually going to fight to the death. Yamato's not going to die here. Kaido's obviously not going to die here. This is just a whole Kaido at bay, so to speak, until Luffy returns. But still, very intense fight, and I hope to see more of it coming up here. But okay, now we get into the main event of the chapter. Okay, so we cut over to the 3rd floor of the tower, which is Black Maria's domain. This is where Black Maria was fighting against Sanji briefly, and of course Sanji, you know, shouted for Robin to come save him because he could not fight against Black Maria, so Sanji escaped, and then that's when Brook and Robin showed up to fight against Black Maria and her little clique, okay, of female warriors that are all like smile users and everything. Okay, so we continue, actually, I mean, some time has passed since the battle, you know, really got serious. If you remember, Black Maria, when she was really serious of fighting Robin, she took off her kimono, and then she had this giant staff with a Wan Yudo at the end of it. A Wan Yudo is a Japanese yokai, I've mentioned this before, but essentially it was the spirit of a daimyo that was very cruel, so very much like Orochi, and he was so cruel he would like have his subjects drawn and quartered with an ox cart. So when this daimyo died, his punishment in the afterlife was to basically take his severed head and attach it to an ox cart wheel, and he wheels around, he's like perpetually on fire, perpetually aflame, okay? I can think of no better final afterlife for Orochi. Like, that's probably what would happen with him, okay? And the Wan Yudo have been depicted throughout a lot of anime and manga. There was a version in Toriko, I remember. That was probably my favorite version of the Wan Yudo, Legend of the Yokai, but it's really cool. So, Black Maria pulled out a staff with a Wan Yudo on the end of it. We didn't know what it did, but then that's where it ended, okay? And so now, we're cutting to the battle where this weird mist is sort of covering the entire battlefield, and we don't see Black Maria right away. We see Robin standing there, and there are 3 individuals in front of her. The first individual is Robin's mother, Nico Olvia. Not Olivia. I thought it was Olivia for the longest time. It's Olvia, okay? So her mother, who is dead, at least should be dead, is standing right there. And then next to Olvia is Professor Clover, Robin's teacher, the head of the Tree of Knowledge Library, and the, you know, everything that they did, all the knowledge that was accrued, the great library at Ohara. He's there, okay? And then behind both of them is a giant that we're all too familiar with, Jaguar D. Saul. And they all seem to have their personalities. They don't seem to be zombies or anything. Like, Robin! You failed us, Robin! You killed... Oh my god, that would be... Okay, that doesn't happen in this chapter, but we find out, okay, these are illusions. These are obviously illusions. No, Olvia, Clover, and Jaguar Diesel came back from the dead for this chapter alone. No, obviously they're all illusions. So my point is, though, instead of maybe trying to manipulate Robin that way by, oh, here's her mother as she remembers in life, and here's Clover, and here's Saul and everybody, maybe instead of that, trying to, like, scare her later by, like, here's zombie Olvia, here's zombie Clover, you know, with, like, bullet holes covering them from when the CP shot them, and here's Saul, like, frozen solid, like, Robin, Dara, she. And he's like a frozen corpse, you know, from when Aokiji left him that way, okay? But no, that doesn't happen. That would be very metal. That would be very terrifying. But anyway, no. So Olvia's there, and she's just like, Robin, come over here. It's been so long. And Clover's like, hey there, Robin. How's it been, you know? Honestly, if this was me, I would just go up to Clover and be like, Clover! What was the name of the ancient kingdom you were about to say before you got shot? You know, that would be funny if, like, hey Robin, it's been so long since I've seen you, I'm glad you're doing well. Robin's like, that's great, what was the name of that ancient kingdom, Clover? Come on, if you're gonna be here, I don't know if this is an illusion or if you're a ghost or whatever, but tell me the name, it's really important. And Clover's like, oh, you need to know that? I thought you were happy to see me. Alright, well the name of the ancient kingdom was, the Lollipop Kingdom. That's where the One Piece is, the Lollipop Kingdom. Never understood the name myself, but that's what it is. So there you go. No, and then there's Saul. And like I said, their personalities are perfect. Like Saul even uses his, you know, Dera she, his laughter style, okay? So Robin is there, and she does have a tear. She does get a tear in her eye, just like, because she's seeing her dead mom and her teacher and her best friend, all right? And all these people are dead. They've been dead for over 20 years at this point. So she's like, oh my god, you're all here. And so Brooke is in the background like, Robin-san, please don't fall for the illusions. You need to fight them. They're not real. And I gotta say, I've seen this happen a lot of time in fiction and movies and video games and books. You know, there's an illusion of a loved one that has passed away, and one of the main characters, you know, they fall for it for a while. Sometimes they're like, I know it's an illusion, but even so, I still want to see them again. Robin, I mean, she has a brief moment where she's like, you know, Mom, Clover, Saul, but then she's like, immediately realizes, like, it doesn't last very long. It lasts only a few seconds, and then she's like, okay. Gotta do it, and then she activates her Giganto Fleur, and she, BAM! Slaps every single one of them with giant arms, okay, and then knocks them all back, okay? And so I like the way that that was portrayed, okay, because Robin, she wasn't, like, right away, like, attacking the illusions. She gave, like, a few seconds where she was actually like, oh, Mom, Saul, Clover, I didn't expect to see you guys today, right? But Black Maria is very cruel. So Black Maria, the way that she would probably use this ability normally is she wouldn't just make the illusions and attack right away. She would make the illusions and then let her prey, you know, actually, like, think that they're really there. And be like, oh my god, it's been so long since I've seen you, all my loved ones. And then right when they're about to embrace, that's when Black Maria would, like, bring down the staff and, like, slice them in half or whatever, like, bite them with the venom from her spider zone or something, right? And so if Black Maria attacked right away, maybe she would have, you know, gotten an attack out on Robin. But no, Robin, like, sees them, and she realizes, like, within, like, 2 seconds, like, this is an illusion. It was nice to see you guys again, but you're just an illusion. And then she uses the ability to smack each one of them down, okay? So Olvia and Clover, who are like normal-sized humans, were two smile users that were members of Black Maria's little clique, okay? And so they had the abilities of 2 different snake smiles, okay? So Robin knocked them both out. And then you had Saul, who was a giant, who was actually one of the numbers, Q-Yun. Alright, and so Q, Yun, so number 9. Okay, so she was number 9 of the numbers. We actually don't get her number, but Q is, that's 9. So she gets hit by that, so, you know, Robin summons the giant arm and smacks her down. It's the only female member of the numbers that we know of so far. And also, next to Hacha, Q Yun here is also the closest to resembling an actual human, just like a giant version of a human, okay? Like a really big version, okay? Because some of the numbers like Jockey and Juki and Goki were more like lizard monsters. Hacha and now Q Yun look more like humans, okay? So that really does seem like maybe those are later experiments that happened at Punk Hazard that were, you know, maybe the monsters were more of like the prototypes, and then these versions were more like just the final stage of the gigantification experiments that Caesar was performing on the kids. You know, maybe this is like the final result of that, perhaps, okay? So we have Hacha and Q Yun now, so I don't believe we have 1, 2, or 3, which that's going to be really irrelevant. I also think 6. I don't think we know 6. We know 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah, we have all of those now, except for 1, 2, 3, and 6. Now, I don't know about 6. I think 6 might just be like a normal, you know, number or whatever. But 1, 2, and 3, those are maybe the first numbers created, like they were the prototypes, like the original experiments. We haven't seen anything involving them yet, so they might be the absolute strongest out of the numbers, okay? Not just in terms of size, those numbers might have hockey, they might have devil fruit powers or smiles, who knows, we'll see. So Robin managed to deal damage to all of them. They're not dead or knocked out or anything. She just dealt damage to each one of these people, you know, with the illusion mist, you know, portraying one of Robin's, you know, close family or friends, okay? And so now Robin and Brooke are running away from Black Maria, who reveals herself. She has the Gravageli zone, the ancient zone, the spider, and so she's running toward them, and Robin and Brooke are running away. And, you know, so Robin looks over at Brooke and is like, wow, Brooke, I'm surprised you were able to resist the illusion and the illusions. You know, I fell for it for a little bit, but you were completely immune. How are you immune? And so Brooke, this is a really tragic thing, and that's like a really dark scene here that happens, because out of all of the Straw Hats, I would say Brooke and Robin have the most tragic backstories. A lot of the Straw Hats have tragic backstories. I'm not saying Nami's backstory, or Frankie's, or Jinbei's, you know, or Chopper's backstories are not sad, or Sanji's is sad. All of the Straw Hats have sad backstories. But with Robin's, her entire homeland where she lived was burned to the ground by the government for the sole reason that they tried to learn too much. The only people that she ever cared about, you know, her teacher, Clover, and all of the scientists and scholars on Ohara died just for their knowledge. And even worse than that, her one true friend that she met, Saul, she only knew for like 3 days until he died as well, frozen to a core right in front of her. And then her mother, her mother, Olvia, who left when she was like 2, so she barely even remembered what she looked like, and she went to go live with her cruel aunt and, uncle or whatever. She misses her so much, and after 6 years, Olvia comes back, they get reunited, and then she gets shot and killed right in front of her. And then her entire island burns down. And then she's alone for the better part of 20 years running from the government from people that are trying to kill her. She's just a little kid when all this starts. She was 8. That's a pretty tragic backstory here. Yeah, Usopp lost his mom to a disease. That is sad. Yasopp left. So he was there on his own, basically an orphan living in the village. That was sad. Kuina died. She fell down some stairs after the stairs defeated her in a sword contest or something. Whatever. That is sad. Sanji had a pretty messed up backstory too with his family and everything like that. But hey, at least with Sanji, after Sanji got away from the Germa and, he spent a little while on the orbit and that was okay. And then, yeah, he almost starved to death on the rock. But after that all was done, at least okay. I, was raised by the Germa. That sucked. I almost starved on a rock. But then I started, me and Zeph started the Baratie, and after that it was pretty okay. He lived a pretty cool life for the next 10 years or so until Luffy met him and everything like that, okay? But then we get to Brook. Brook has the saddest backstory. It goes Brook and then Robin, in my opinion, okay? Brook had his whole crew, who he loved. It was a great crew, the Rumbar Pirates. There's Laboon there, little whale companion traveling with them all throughout the West Blue. Then they go to the Grand Line. They have to leave Laboon behind, so they're already sad there. Then half the crew gets wiped out by a disease. Yorkie apparently dies. Maybe he's still alive. Who knows? I made a video about that a while back. Go check that out. But anyway, yeah, then he's the captain, and he's all, with his own crew, and he's sailing, and then they all get wiped out. And then slowly, one by one, as they sing their final ballad for Laboon, they all drop dead behind him. Brook is there playing the piano, just listening to every thud representing the death of one of his closest friends. But wait! It doesn't stop there! Because then he comes back to life because of the Yomi Yomi no Mi, but he doesn't come back to life as a human. He comes back as a skeleton. Yo! Because, he couldn't get back. So he already had to spend a year as a soul wandering the fog. That probably wasn't very fun. A whole year traveling around like, oh man, am I going to find my body? I'm just a soul. Finally finds his body as a skeleton, so he comes back in that body. And then he's stuck in the middle of the Florian Triangle. It's okay, Robin. It's okay. Stuck in the middle of the Florian Triangle in the mist in a broken ship that he cannot steer for not 1 year, or 2, or 5, or 10, or 20, or 30, or 40, but for 50 freaking years! With nothing but the corpses of his friends to keep him company. And so when Robin looks over at Brook and asks him, how are you immune to the illusions? Brook's response is very, very sad, but it makes sense. He's like, after 50 years of living in the foggy seas of the Florian Triangle, I am so used to seeing the illusions and the mirages and the dreams of all of my friends alive and well. My God, is that sad! And right after that, there's a bit of an upbeat moment where they're like, oh, I guess we're 2 peas in a pod. We both have horribly tragic backstories, Robin. And Robin's like, I guess we do. I think we're the most tragic backstories out of all of the Straw Hats. Probably in the entire world. I know that, right? Yo! Oh, Lord. Like, yeah, because every day Brook would probably wake up and, he would dream about his crew still being alive. And then he would wake up and he's like, oh, it was just a dream. And then Yorkie's right behind him like, no, it wasn't a dream, Brook, we're still here. Yorkie! Oh, it's just an illusion. I guess I gotta deal with this again. And after a while, it implies Brook just got used to it. It was so just like a thing that's like, it's not even like, it doesn't even give me joy anymore that I see my friends, because I just know it's an illusion at this point. They're all dead, they're never coming back. I just have to live with this. So, I'm sure we don't get to see what the illusion Brook saw was. But I'm assuming it was Yorkie, and it was all of his friends. He saw Laboon there. Like, hey, Brook, like, Laboon can talk now. Hi, Brook, how are you? It's like, Laboon, you're back? You can talk? Wait a minute. So, yeah, the sad thing is we don't see it, but as soon as the illusions appeared in front of Brook, Brook probably just, like, without hesitation, either ignored them or sliced them down with Soul Solid. Because he's so used to it, it's not even, like, a big deal for him anymore, right? And so, they're running away from Black Maria. And so we get to see exactly what's going on with this illusion mist, alright? So we get a close-up on her weapon, the staff that has the Wanyudo, the ox cart with the guy's face in front of it, okay? So, the Wanyudo itself is a smile user. It is a pug. So it's the dog fruit model pug, or human-faced dog. So we get to see that the dog's body is actually inside of the wheel, spinning the ox cart wheel, while the face is sticking out. So it's not really a Wanyudo. It's just like a guy that has the pug smile, or no, yeah, I guess it is the pug smile. So it was a guy that has the pug smile in pug form, in his pug body. By the way, aren't pugs just adorable? Oh, look at the little guy. Oh, they're so cute. It's a little pug guy, you know, running around, you know, spinning the wheel and sending out fire and the illusion smoke, which is causing these powers, okay? And so now Black Maria realizes, like, oh, okay, the illusions don't work against you. That'll be okay. In fact, I know the illusions don't work against you, but you're still dreaming. You're dreaming if you could ever defeat Master Kaido. So now she takes the Wanyudo staff and she starts spinning it like crazy, and not the fog or the mist, but fire shoots out. And the entire ground just gets lit aflame. And so she's on top of the ceiling with the Wanyudo. She's a spider, so she crawls up on the ceiling. Robin uses her Hana no Mi, her arms, to create a spider web of her own to grab onto the ceiling, and she grabs Brook and like scoops him up so they get up to the ceiling, right? So the flames are beneath them. And so she's just like, you know, you can't possibly hope to defeat us. And then Robin's like, are you crazy? You're gonna burn the whole castle down if you do this. And Black Maria's like, oh, that's so considerate of you to be worried about us. Don't worry, you're going to die. It's okay. And so Robin, as I said, kind of has Brook, you know, in her one arm, and her other arm is like holding on to the hands from the Hana no Mi to hold on to the ceiling. And so Brook's right there, and he's like, hey Robin, could you just, you know, hold on to me for just a few more moments? I want to try something here. If that Wanyudo is in fact a living thing, I should be able to do soul powers. And so his skeleton body separates from his soul. The soul goes down and passes through the Wanyudo, and with the chill of the underworld, the Wanyudo freezes solid. And so the soul just passed right through him and froze him solid. And I'm like, okay, Brook, could you do that with anybody? Can you just like turn into a soul and pass through a living thing and then just freeze it solid? Because that seems like an immensely useful ability. You know, you could always say, well, if they have hockey, it wouldn't work, or if they are strong enough, or they could always avoid the soul. But in this one particular instance, seemed pretty damn useful to me. So Brook managed to freeze the Wanyudo solid, so that fire disappears as well as the mist, so, you know, Black Maria can't use that weapon anymore. And then at the same time, Brook returns to his skeleton body, takes out Soul Solid, his trusty cane sword, which I have right here. Do I not have a cane sword? Why do I not have a cane sword? Yubashiri, Sandai, Master Sword, Master Shield, Benehime, Candy Cane Sword, Candy Cane. Alright, so Brook takes out his mighty Candy Cane Sword, Soul Solid, and lands on the ground and uses an attack called Ice Burn. And so he freezes the flames on the ground. How is that possible? He's Brook, that's how. So he freezes the flames, or disperses the flames with ice, so Robin can safely drop down from the ceiling and land on the ground without burning to death, okay? So Robin lands on the ground, and this is where Black Maria starts to talk about Sanji. She states to Robin, like, oh, you know, the Straw Hats are just trying to protect you, okay? Because you're such a burden to them, because you're the Devil Child, you're Nico Robin, you're the one that could read the poneglyphs, you know, everybody's gonna come after you, everybody's gonna try to capture you, you know, Kaido wants you, that's why I'm here and everything, and Sanji just sold you out. Sanji, you know, supposed to be protecting you, was like a little baby that couldn't do anything for himself, and, you know, called for you to come save him, okay? He was such a pitiful man. And so Robin just kind of looks over at Black Maria. Oh, by the way, I like that Black Maria specifically does state that Sanji has the second highest bounty out of the Straw Hats. That is pretty funny. It's not true anymore because Jinbei has now officially joined and he's here, and so the Beast Pirates do not know that Jinbei is like an official member of the crew now, but Jinbei has like a bounty of over 400 million, so it would go Luffy with 1.5 billion, and then Jinbei, then Sanji, then Zoro, and then everybody else. But as far as Black Maria knows right now from the last ranking of their bounties, it goes Luffy, and then Sanji, and then Zoro, okay? So that is pretty funny that, you know, she specifically mentions, like, Sanji has the second highest bounty, but he was so weak, he was so pitiful. And so Robin looks over at Black Maria. By the way, at this time, Brook is going to fight against... Brook is kind of leaving Robin to fight Black Maria. Okay, so it's not going to be 2-on-1, all right? Brook is going to go deal with the rest of the smiles and all the yokai that Black Maria has in her little clique. And so Brook is just like, you know, I will fight all of these yokai and demons, even though I hate demons. Yo-ho-ho-ho-ho! Okay, time to fight. And he takes out... Where's my candy cane sword? Takes out his candy cane sword, and Brook charges to fight against the yokai. Meanwhile, Robin is just facing down Black Maria. Okay, one-on-one, and she just looks over at Black Maria, and she doesn't really give her a lot of details, but she just says, you know, I'm not going to bother with this. Somebody like you would not understand. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain this to you, how much I appreciated that Sanji called for my help. And he is truly one of the men that will serve as the wings for the Pirate King. That is the metaphor that Robin uses, and I love that. That is beautiful. For one thing, Robin can actually make wings, so that's cool in and of itself. She is an angel after all. But the fact that she's comparing, you know, Zoro and Sanji for the wings to Luffy to soar to the heavens and become the Pirate King, that was an awesome metaphor. I love that. And so, that's all Robin says. She says Sanji is a kind man, he has a good soul, and, you know, he's going to be one of the wings for the Pirate King. I'm not going to sit here and explain to you why that matters or why him asking for help wasn't a bad thing. I'm just going to kick your ass, basically. And so she activates a new technique, Giganta Flower, where she forms a giant version of herself behind her that is naked, by the way. Robin can replicate clothing. We've seen that before with her clones, so it will probably be wearing clothing, I would assume. But it is naked as it is appearing behind her. And so Robin's giant body appears behind her with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 arms coming out of it. So it really does look like we're doing like the Guan Yin Bodhisattva thing. Or that's like, you know, the representation that Oda's going to go with here, not directly taking it from Netero's ability from Hunter x Hunter, but that is the deity, and since we already did the Makami this chapter and lots of gods and stuff in One Piece, we have the Buddha already, why not the Bodhisattva, right? And so I think that's the idea that Oda's gonna go for here. Man, cue up the battle theme when Netero fought against Miram, you know, ha-da-ha, ha-da-ha, you know, just like giant, like 99th hand! And then Black Maria's blocking with the staff, and it gets broken, and she's like, crap, and then she has to fire, like, the spider web or whatever. But yeah, Robin's not gonna lose an arm or a leg like Netero, I don't think. I also don't think Robin has a nuclear bomb in her chest, but other than that, I think she's going to win this, okay? I think she's going to make this work, okay? It's gonna be awesome to see this fight in its fullest. Here's the thing, though. We cut away from Robin. This is the last scene we see with her, and it's amazing, it's breathtaking, and I can't wait to see how this fight continues. But I want to mention, the last few fights we've had, the fight with Jinbei and Who's Who ended with Jinbei doing the, you know, the 10,000 demon brick fist, boom, punching Who's Who right in the face. And we're assuming that fight was over. And then last chapter ended with Frankie abandoning the Frankie Shogun, blasting a radical beam right through Sasuke's, you know, Triceratops stomach. And just like, okay, maybe the fight's over. This chapter did not end with Black Maria falling. It didn't even end with Black Maria taking any damage in this chapter. And so that makes me think that, yeah, those other fights with the Tobiropo, they are not over yet. Because Ancient Zones have really good recovery and, like, endurance already. And so Who's Who's probably going to get back up, his mask is going to be shattered, and he's going to fight against Jinbei, round 2. And then the same thing's going to happen with Sasuke and Frankie. Frankie's going to be winded, he already lost the Frankie Shogun. Sasuke's going to get right back up, and he's just like, is that all you got? You know, the wound wound in his stomach is already healing from the laser. We saw that with Ulti, with the Mazer beam and everything like that. And so, obviously, Robin's fight is just getting started, really. But I think it's not going to be like, oh, okay, 2 of the Tobiropo have already been defeated. Well, more of the Tobiropo have already been defeated. But it's like, oh, all the Tobiropo are pretty much done at this point. If you just want to take it as it is, Page 1 is defeated, Ulti's defeated, Sasuke's defeated, Who's defeated, Drake defected, Black Maria is the only Tobiropo left. If you just want to take it at face value from where we're at right now, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's all of the Tobiropo. Ulti has the best shot of actually being taken down right now, because Ulti got a shot from Big Mom, and then she got electrocuted by Zeus. So if any of the Tobiropo are down permanently, I would say it's Ulti. Page 1 could get back up still, okay? He could get back up and go fight somebody else. I don't think Sasuke and Who are down. Drake defected. He's still out there doing stuff. And then we have Black Maria here still in the middle of a fight, right? But anyway, yeah. Next chapter's probably not going to continue with this. We're going to maybe go back to see what's going on with Luffy. Actually, we are there right now at the end of the chapter. And then maybe we'll cut back to these fights later in like round 2 of the Straw Hats versus the Tobiropo. So last scene of the chapter, we cut down to the shore of Wano. I'm assuming there are probably... Okay, so if Onigashima is here, and the flower capital is here, and Onigashima was like, you know, going straight line as the crow flies straight to the flower capital, they would probably be over the Udon region right now, or the Hakumai region, okay? And so Onigashima's in the sky, still moving toward the flower capital. You see that the Polar Tang Law's sub has been docked at the shore. All of the Heart Pirates are out there helping Luffy. Luffy's on the ground. He is conscious now, and he's like, I need more meat! And like Jean Bart and the other members of the Heart Pirates are like, we gave you all the meat on the sub. I'm sorry. It's a sub. It's not that big. We mostly just have jerky and provisions. You ate everything. We don't have anything. And there's no wildlife around where they are, because if this is Udon, it would be like a burnt-out ruin anyway. It's like a wasteland, essentially, compared to when it was like a jungle that was thriving when, you know, Odin was alive. So there's no meat. There's no wild animals around. And even if they were poisoned. Now, Shinobu and Momo are also there as well. They arrived, I guess, on their own. You know, they just arrived at that area helping out the Heart Pirates. And so Luffy's there on the ground, and he's really winded, but he's like, okay, here's what's going to happen. Step 1, I'm going to get some more meat. And then step 2, I'm going to get back up to Onigashima. And then step 3, I am going to kick that Dragon Duck's ass. And I'm not going to lose this time. Luffy says that. He's like, this time, I am not going to lose. Round 3 or round 4, or whatever round it is, I'm going to win, all right? It's round gear 5th. That's what it is. So Momo goes over to him, and Momo's crying, and Luffy kind of like, hey, you can't be crying, you know, you gotta stand tall, you know, we're gonna fight against Kaido, we're gonna win, I need you to turn into a dragon and fly me back up there. And Momo is just kind of like, you know, crying a little bit, just kind of like, okay, what? And then he looks up to the sky and sees Onigashima, and then that's where the chapter ends, okay? The Heart Pirates do say that they're gonna go and try to find more meat for Luffy. It's like, alright, fine, let's go, let's find meat. I don't know where we're gonna find any, but let's go. If they're not that far from the flower capital, if, you know, they're in a part of Udon, well, no, well, okay, they are on the shore, but remember, there is a river. There is a river that goes between Udon and Hakumai that leads right into the flower capital, so maybe they're, like, in inland Wano a little bit. Not directly by the sea, perhaps, and there might be a way for them to find, like, sneak into the flower capital and get some food. Maybe Tengu Yama and Otama will help them out there. Not Otama, Otoko. Otoko and Tengu that are at the festival, maybe they might see them and might try to get some food to help out Luffy, okay? Hey everybody, future editing Tekking here to cover something that I missed. Caribou, who has been missing for this entire war. You know, is he on Onigashima? Did he stay behind on Wano? I ask this because his ability would be insanely useful, because he can store a nigh infinite amount of weapons and provisions. You know, he could carry, like, giant cannons into the battle. We actually do get to see him, and he is hanging out in mainland Wano, hiding behind a tree and some rocks, actually watching the Heart Pirates help Luffy out, okay? And so he is sitting there and he's actually thinking to himself that, wait a second, if the Straw Hats fail, if Luffy dies, then Kaido is not going to be defeated. And if Kaido is not going to be defeated, then I might not be able to get off of this island. Because remember, the whole reason Caribou was there was he was imprisoned in the Udon prison. So he's like, okay, if Kaido wins, I'm probably just going to get, you know, caught and locked up again. So it's in my best interest to make sure Straw Hat wins. So I think Caribou might actually have maybe a large cache of, like, food and meat inside of his swamp. Kind of disgusting, but that would be our best shot. And then he gives that to Luffy, and that heals him. And it would actually be funny if it's Luffy, Momonosuke,
and Caribou that go back up to Onigashima together. You know, with obviously Momo and Luffy having a beef with Kaido directly, but then Caribou's there like, oh, he's not going to be able to help us very much, or he's very cowardly, but he does have a Logia, and it is a pretty useful ability, so he could definitely help people out here, as like halfway through the battle, right when all the battles were getting to the point where it's like the Straw Hats won't be able to continue, boom, Caribou shows up with some weapons or some medicine or some other provisions or things that they might need. It's like a supply drop. That's what Caribou can provide. So I just wanted to mention that. I missed him there.
Because Luffy, as he is right now, he's just barely conscious, okay? He just had enough meat to get him conscious, but he's still very winded, he's very weak. Luffy's probably only at about 5% right now, okay? He's probably running on jerky, essentially. Like, he's had like 3 Slim Jims, and that's not going to cut it, okay? You need to get, like, you know, like, I need a giant steak, you know, I need at least 13 cows in order to fuel me to get up there, alright? So Luffy's gonna have to get some more food from the festival, probably, because that's the only place where there's decent food in Wano. And then Momo's there, and this is the big challenge for Momo. Momo has spent most of this arc so far at Onigashima, like running around, you know, being protected by Shinobu and Yamato. He had a really good moment there when he was on the scaffolding and he declared, you know, I am Kozuki Momonosuke! My father is Kozuki Oden! You know, and so that was a good moment there for Momo, and he was almost killed by Kanjuro. He was able to get through all of that. But this is the next hurdle for Momo. Momo has to do this, okay? I mean, there are other ways Luffy could maybe get up there. People have brought up, you know, Luffy has Gear 4th. He could just, you know, kick up, but that would be burning through a lot of his haki and Gear 4th, and we don't know how far it is. I mean, Onigashima's a big freaking mountain, so it might take a really long time to get up there. The quickest way would probably be maybe using Momo's Devil Fruit power, the dragon, to create the clouds, which is based on Kaido's, because that way Luffy could conserve his strength. Even if Luffy gets a bunch of meat in him, he's not going to be at full power. He's not just going to eat some meat and be like back at 100%. No. Even if he eats all the meat he can stomach and he's like, okay, I'm good, he's probably still only going to be at like 50, 60, 70%. I don't know numbers. He could be at any percentage, but he's not going to be at full power, okay? And so he's got to be able to conserve that energy, and so that's why he's asking Momo to take him. Shinobu also has a kite, but that's more for gliding rather than straight up flying. Maybe Jean Bart can just pick him up and just like Orlumbus, like, you know, Jean Bart's home runs, and just throws Luffy. You know, maybe, I don't know, but it's really high up there. So, and Luffy can't just hit the bottom of the mountain. He has to try to get on top of it, right? On top of the Muffin Mountain would be perfect, or at least on the actual surface. He can't just slam into the side of it, right? He has to get to the surface. So we need to have somebody that can fly here. So unless Marco flies down and helps them out, it's got to be Momonosuke. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, yeah, that is chapter 1020. It was pretty fantastic. We got some awesome Robin and Brook moments there. Pretty sad Robin and Brook moment, but they kind of bonded. You know, they increased their arcana together. You know, like in Persona, right? So their arcana, you've been increased to arcana level 8. You know, we get to level 9 and 10, maybe some stuff will happen there. But anyway, that's the chapter. Hope you guys enjoyed. This will be Tekking and Barry and Robin signing out. See ya, everybody.